AI seems new, but musicians have been creating with the support of artificial intelligence now for over a decade and experimenting with algorithmic composition for over 70 years. Yeah, we're going there. AI is up on deck right here on the Stream Girls.
Check the Stream Girls. They've got a lot to say. The Stream Girls, from Los Angeles to the Monterey Bay, started streaming for the boys knew what was up. California dreaming, here to light the world up. If you know, you know. If you don't, you're in your own way. If you know, you know. If you don't, your own way. Ooh, girls out to change the world.
You know, I can't tell you how many compliments we get on that theme song. I'm just going to put it out there. It's AI. But is it? Because those lyrics don't belong to a machine, my friend.
It didn't crawl out of the sandbox and write itself.
No. Welcome to Show 9, Episode 9 of the Stream Girls. I'm Sandy Shore.
And I am Donna K. Phillips.
Having a Guinness.
Yeah, well, you know, like I showed, it's always a lovely day for Guinness.
You know, we record these in the evening. I don't want people to think that Donna's starting up at the crack of dawn.
No, if it were Ireland, I might, but it's America. We don't do that.
So this will not be the only show we do on artificial intelligence in the music industry. We're starting the dialogue here on the Stream Girls because it's healthy, because it needs to be started. We've had a lot of people ask us, to kick off the conversation. And that's why we're doing it. So we're going to touch down on some topics tonight, mainly to get the ball rolling and to ponder a bit and to see if maybe we can turn over a stone or two. In 1951, a gentleman by the name of Alan Turing recorded the first computer-generated melody. We saw a movie about that.
With Benedict Cumberbatch, I believe.
Yes, exactly.
I like him.
In 1957, Iliac Suite became the first computer-composed string quartet.
Wow.
Yeah.
I did not know that.
Yeah. In the 80s, when you and I were dancing ourselves sick, EMI, which stood for Experiments in Music Intelligence, was being used all the time, and it was used to analyze compositions and styles and to generate new works for artists, ideas.
Wow. So
that was in the 80s.
The MTV generation, huh?
And it dipped into the 90s. In the 90s, artists like David Bowie used algorithmic lyric generators. And that is what he used for his music. That was an early precursor to AI-assisted creativity. And that's where the red shoes came from.
Really?
No, what? I don't know.
What? No, they didn't AI generate the videos.
I don't know, but David always had some lyrics that were a little otherworldly, right?
Yeah, but he's the perfect guy to experiment with AI.
But AI could spin a yarn like "Put on your red shoes and dance the blues." That's
true.
Very creative. Lately, the reason why we decided to launch our topic on AI in this season is because this past week you may have seen Harvey Mason Jr. all over social media. Now he's the bad guy because he's talking about the evolution of studio assistants and pulling the curtain back as someone who's in the studio all the time. And he's saying that most producers and musicians are using AI to generate hundreds of ideas in what he says is basically a very natural tool that we're using routinely now, and all of a sudden everybody's villainizing it. So, this goes back, Donna, to when we got mad at Pro Tools when it came along and we bumped out the multi-track tape recorders, and then they got mad. When I say they, just arbitrary people who don't like change. Got mad at auto-tune, and
Yeah.
now there's AI, and so I'm just curious. I'm going to throw out some. We're not defending AI, nor are we like, I don't even really own any stock that's AI. So it's not like I'm here to, be pro AI. I'm here to start a dialogue in an industry that I call home. So let's see, let me throw out some ideas, and Donna will throw out some thoughts. She's really big on certain artists that are very creative. So that's going to be the conversation for the day. But I am curious as to if you think about, what do you think the difference is between, I know the difference, but is it really worse to go and talk to assisted intelligence about your musical ideas versus going and allowing a producer, say, to influence your sound?
From an artist's perspective, you're asking?
I'm asking from any perspective. What do you think about that?
Well, I'm just thinking about if I had had this tool when I was recording, because it was a hard process to learn how to get in the studio and record it. When you first start, it's not easy to figure out the ins and outs of recording itself and mixing and mastering. But then you're working with a producer. I guess in some ways it might be easy because you just can let them take over. But if you want to have some creative control over the project, you've got to really communicate or prompt, right?
Yeah.
You've got to get your thoughts out to this producer. And that's going to cost time and money. And I think it also, like, do you have that in your budget? Does every artist have that in their budget to just go get a producer to shape their sound for whatever purpose, to get on a certain station or radio in general, to get higher streams? For whatever reason, we use producers to influence our sound. It's, to me, just another tool. And also, I think what I find interesting about it is that it forces you to really know what you want. Mm-hmm. And that's not easy for someone who's newer at recording than someone who's been doing it a while. But for someone who's been doing it a while and knows what they want, I would think this would be a big cost-saving and time-saving tool.
Well, yeah, and I understand that your perspective is a financial one, and I get that. I'm talking about influence, because producers influence an artist's sound. I really don't care, who the producer is or who the artist is, and I don't really care what genre it is, because an artist is influenced by the person who's producing. And that's great. Sometimes that's what a lot of artists don't. They may be very talented musicians, right, and put on heck of a show live. But when it comes to recording, that is an art. That is a craft. So having a producer that knows what you need is a gift. It's a blessing, regardless of money, right? But it still influences the artist's sound. And I guess what I'm saying is, if you could go have a conversation through prompts, however you communicate to the API that you're using, whatever, AI you're using, software, whatever, and you could ask for what you're looking for, and maybe see if that's not. I just don't really see the difference in having a producer put their stank all over you, if you will.
Well, if you want that, like for instance, you didn't like the latest Taylor Swift offering, and I did, and you didn't like what the producers did with her sound. That's just an example. It's not like it's your favorite artist. It's just something that you and I disagreed on. And you cited specifically the influence of the producers. And there are some, and it's widely known, that when certain producers in this genre of smooth jazz, and there aren't that many, when they produce too many songs in a row, the radio stations, I've heard from programmers, and you've heard, and they don't want to hear songs from the same producer over and over again, because they do put their stank on it.
Yeah, they sound the same.
Yeah,
and that's being very generic. I don't mean to be so black and white, but they can start to sound similar. And it is rare to find a producer that's listening to your voice and staying out of the way. But they exist, and we know them. We know them, and they're worth their salt, so they're expensive. But
Well,
this is
and
where
one more thing though, Sandy.
Sure.
There's also, when you're working with a producer, oftentimes there's points back in songwriting credits and publishing royalties to that producer. So that is another freedom of AI.
Yeah,
Is that
yeah.
if you can prompt an AI, you get to keep all those royalties for yourself, so that you weigh that.
That's a really good point. A little known fact, I guess, is that unless you're doing this, then you are very aware. You're acutely aware of the money you're giving away.
Yeah.
So not only are you often paying a producer, but those producers are sometimes, most times, helping you write the song, shape the song. Then you're giving them songwriting credits, and then that turns into money. And so, yeah, having AI as an option is a way to keep all the marbles. Also, another thought, artists for a long time have been borrowing ideas from other songs, reverse engineering songs to see if they can build their own anthem or their own smash. And another really cool thing, I personally love the Harvey Mason's reel that was going around. I know the person that was distributing it on Instagram was saying negative things, but I personally thought, he's speaking the truth. Another really cool one that's been going around recently is Will.i.am from the Black Eyed Peas, talking about how he reverse engineered tracks and ideas of songs for I Got a Feelin', the huge 2009 smash for the Peas. And they're smash peas is what it was. But I heard myself say that, and I'm like, but
I prefer
anyway,
black-eyed, but smashed is an option.
they were smashed. But so what Will.i.am said was he borrowed some ideas from the YouTube song "Beautiful Day," and he wanted to create like an uplifting stadium anthem like that.
I can hear that in there now.
Yeah, and then he said that he also borrowed ideas and phrasing from Talking Heads' "Psycho Killer" and vibes from Earth, Wind, and Fire, all over the top of David Guetta's instrumental. He's that French DJ that's super talented. I borrowed kind of an instrumental thing from David, and then that shaped the core rhythmic patterns. Now, this was not AI, but it is what AI does.
Right.
And my point is, you have that's why you've got people very famous, very successful producers and musicians in the studio every day, spitting out 10 to 100 song ideas to see if there's anything there to record.
Well, and we've experienced that with writing, and also with graphic design, and with other ideas that you can prompt with AI. And what you're not going to get, because I'm a designer, and it would take me weeks to do 3 comps for my clients, right?
Yeah.
You can get 4, 5, 10 ideas from an AI in seconds. It's just so much more diversity. It's so many more paint colors in the palette.
Right.
That you just can't. I propose that you're actually more limited. And maybe for some people that's preferable, to be more limited in the amount of colors you use to create whatever it is you're creating, music or otherwise. But you cannot touch it in terms of options. Like, it can throw out things that you absolutely know you're not going to like, but it might prompt a thought that you never would have had.
That's it. No, that's it. Because we're not over here saying that everything it creates is genius, because, oh my God, it's so not. I mean, so, as much as I am a fan of the expedience of AI, especially the written word part of it, I sometimes, Don and I will be extremely critical. Fortunately, we're not hurting anyone's feelings because it's AI. And, but we've had a few choice thoughts about some of the art side of it, right?
Yes, like, the 6 fingers cannot be tolerated.
No,
but what's funny is I always say, and I believe this firmly: be nice to the machines.
That's right.
Be known as being nice to the machines, because every word you say and everything you put online is now documented. It's now being remembered and recalled, right? So even when they give me six-fingered people or three-eyed people,
They get really funny about if
I'm
you
very
try to,
kind about correcting it.
exactly. I mean, and that's right. That's the right way to be, you know. And they're
Yeah.
oh so courteous to us, aren't they?
They're a little sycophantic.
They are. And there's no everyone could use a nice sycophant once in a while.
Exactly. We don't have those anymore, you know. So it's
Yeah.
nice to be polite. I
It's
like the politeness of them.
And you know, but we're not saying that they are everything they spit out is world class. But as creative people who generate ideas constantly, it's just nice to have a sounding board that one can keep up with you
And be encouraging.
and encourage you, and also maybe push you outside your comfort zone and get you to think outside the box. And that's really where I feel, if used correctly, AI can be of that service. Because the other thing to remember too is that AI, and I at this point, I don't have all the answers and I don't know everything, as shocking as that might be to some. But I'll say,
That's the fun of it. We're discovering, but we're not afraid to move forward.
no, but I'll say that at this point, I'm convinced that the AI creations really can only be as good as you are, as clever as your prompts are, as creative as you are. I'm convinced of that. I don't think you can take an average prompt and get an exceptional response. And I believe that's true for life, and I believe that's true for AI. So for those who are nervous about losing your place, you know, in line, I think what you need to be nervous about, if anything, is that it does open the door to creativity. And not all creative people have to have a degree or a doctorate in music or arts.
Yeah.
And they can bring their creativity, whatever they've done in their life, to music, and it might just rock our world a little bit. And Donna introduced me to somebody over the holidays last year that it has really touched my life, and I know she's a huge fan of her. You want to tell us a little bit about your discovery with Kelly Bosch?
Yeah, Kelly Bosch, I highly recommend to every person, and especially artists of all kinds. KELLYBOESCH, Kelly Bosch. Check her out on YouTube or Spotify. She actually has her own music channel. You know, Sandy could talk about her numbers because they're massive. But she's a graphic designer like myself, and I was really impressed by that. She does the large vector graphics for IMAX, and that's not easy stuff to produce. But what's amazing about Kelly is that she is writing all of her songs on, like, using Suno, or using not just Suno, probably Udio as well, but
She has a workflow. Yeah.
she has a workflow. She uses multiple apps to draw her images, her video images of her characters, and then she uses other AIs to animate them. And what's fascinating is that she's so early in the process that we're watching the evolution, literally through her work. We're watching the evolution of animation and how it's getting better. And what's so funny about the AIs is it's learning. All these programs she's using are learning her. They know that she likes orange and in every color scheme. She's turning into a fashionista. She's turning into
Yeah.
a major influencer in the fashion world.
Yes.
She's literally dreaming up costumes. And I love that she uses characters of all age.
Yeah.
She uses dance movements of all cultures. But then she takes the music part of it and tells the story. So those are all her prompts. She's not a songwriter by trade. And I
She's a
predict that-
writer, though.
She's a writer, but I think that she's going to be one of the most influential filmmakers yet to come in AI. I know she's already working with friends that are in film, and I think we're going to see a Kelly Bosch movie soon. And she is literally at the beginning. We're going to be talking about her like we're talking about Steve Jobs. And she's such a cool person. I've seen her on many podcasts. There's a lot to learn from Kelly Bosch because she's hitting so many areas, Sandy.
Yeah.
She's doing the music part of it. She's doing the video. She's doing the animation. She's doing the storytelling, and then she's putting it all together.
She has a diverse background, almost a 20-year experience in design, in graphic design.
Guess what?
And film
She's-
production.
Yes, and I don't mean to interrupt you, but I forgot to say, she does all of this production from her phone on the couch after work at night. That's a lot of production that I would want a big screen for. This woman's able to design all of these characters, outfits, music, everything from her phone. It's all prompts.
That's amazing. No, and I think the point of us talking about an artist like this is that, are we comfortable saying that she's not an artist, she's not a recording artist, because she doesn't have a music career? She didn't invest 20 years of her life in a band. She didn't live in a studio recording on other people's albums or singles. She didn't, she didn't go out on tour. She didn't, find her way onto radio stations in the 90s. I mean, do we get to diminish a creator, a creative mind like this, a multidisciplinary artist like this, because she comes into the music industry from a storytelling and a visual art side, and brings all of that skill set into, the music business, if you will, and now has millions of monthly listeners. I just listened to her new song today, and you're going to love it, Donna. It's totally a little bit of a departure. My thing is, if you're going to put out a new song every week, I don't want to hear the same song. And I'm pretty critical about that, just given my years of experience. Today's song that I heard from Kelly, and I will look up the name of it, had a little bit of a Joni Mitchell slant.
Cool.
And that was really exciting for me,
Yeah, and what I love about her is that she abandoned song structure like Alanis Morissette did in the 90s. Alanis did that. She started going off in that direction after her hits with Glenn Ballard. When she established herself, she would literally do like almost meditative lyrics that were stream of consciousness. And what I love about Kelly is that she literally, the images influence the words of the song and vice versa.
That's right.
It's all just a feeling. And I literally, when I found her, 6 months ago or so? Like,
I think
it was around
right,
Christmas time.
Right during the holiday. I think it was, I want to say like November of 25.
So 7 or 8 months ago.
Yeah.
And she had hundreds of thousands, I believe, of followers. She's way over millions now. And okay, so you're talking about her parachuting into the music industry. I would proffer that it doesn't matter anymore. Like, I was listening to Pivot with Kara Swisher and Scott Galloway, and they were saying that the middleman culture is over. It's already over. Like, this is the culture we live in now is about content creators. It's about literal creators. Artists are finally, we have the tools, we have the platforms. If we learn how to use them, or we get help learning how to use them, we can literally elevate ourselves. We can literally drop into an industry that is happening. I'm not talking about YouTube influencers who have opinions or do these crazy little things, right? I'm talking about people who actually create new content we've never seen before. Mm-hmm. And the middleman culture is not necessary for someone like Kelly Bosch. That's what we're seeing right now. And that's what we've been trying to say, is that I know it makes some people comfortable to go through a middleman or a supposed expert who's been there for 30 years, but we are not in that culture anymore. That is not the world we live in. It's about learning to use new tools and learning how to get on platforms to build your audience directly. And she's doing it. She's an example.
Well, and she brings in a skill set that I'm sure artists would, love to have. It's a skill set that a lot of artists don't have, because they have to see outside of their music, composition, their recording, their practicing, their, arrangements and all the other stuff that goes along with making music. Then you have to put on the hat of marketing and visuals and social media and everything else that your label is going to require you to do. And when I say your label, I mean your independent label. You also are a label. If you're releasing music on your own, then you are a label CEO and you have admin to do. And here's a woman who is, visually driven as a designer, a digital creator, a writer, a producer, has film, in her resume, and is able to go and harness AI to pull out ideas and things in her heads that have just been kind of living there, and bring it to full living color. And this is extraordinary stuff. It's extraordinary stuff.
It is. And don't forget, when Ellen had her show, she literally made, she discovered new talent on YouTube.
Yeah.
And some of those people parlayed that and went on to become known content creators. And they made good money from it. And that was over a decade ago, right? So this is a new topic to vilify and to put up scary videos on your silly, social media about this. Sure, that does get attention. But this is a movement that you're not going to stop it. And it almost makes genres irrelevant too, because
and age irrelevant.
Oh, for sure.
And that's the beautiful thing, because the younger generation isn't as obsessed with, alienating and putting people and things in different boxes. We were really about dividing and subdividing, in our generation. And of course, those older than us, it was all about, I listen to this and I do this and we drive this and we live here. And the younger generation is just sort of throwing the rules out. Kelly, in her videos show people of all ages. And really, I would say the number one theme, and this is why I recommend it, not only is she exhibiting amazing talent as a visual artist and as a musician of sorts, she's all about kindness and humanity. So that's another wonderful thing we like about it. But it is going to strike the nerve of some folks. And that leads me to a question of who is mad at AI? I mean, again, we're not here to take a side one way or the other, but, it's not going to go away any more than Pro Tools went away, any more than Auto-Tune, went away. And by the way, to my point about, Auto-Tune is only going to really work so far. AI is only going to be as clever and creative as the person prompting it. Auto-Tune can't do a thing to help me sing. So there you go. I mean, it's an amazing tool, but if you can't sing, you can't sing. You know what I mean? And it's not going to fix everybody. So it's also a technique and a sound, and that's why, we're not going to lose AI any more than we're going to, than Pro Tools is going to go away, No,
but you wrote me a really cool song for my birthday.
Yeah.
And what was great was you played me all the other iterations of it, and the one that you prompted that you chose was the best one.
Thank you.
And the song style, the vocal style was perfect. And that takes ears to know that,
Well, and too, for me, I do know how to play instruments, and I do play a bit. And I also have been writing songs since I was a child. So for me, I have two huge trunks filled with lyrics.
Yep.
That I have been writing, the majority of my life. And to be able to pop lyrics into, to not have to, I also write music and work on music with real musicians. And I do this every single year, carve out time to write the smoothjazz.com songles, which are, for those who don't know what a songle is, they're shorter than a song and longer than a jingle. And so I've dubbed them the songles, and they get played on smoothjazz.com radio, on our radio stream, and we also write those for the Smooth Lounge radio stream as well. So, and I write those and we produce those. I work with Pete Ferenz, and he and I have fun, and we invite all kinds of musicians to be involved. There is no AI on those, but how fun is it for me to pull out my songs, my chord progressions that I wrote back in the day, and lyrics that I've written over the years, and to pop them into something like a Suno, and to see what I create, of course, and any creative soul or spirit would really enjoy that, I would think. But the folks that are mad at it, because there are some, and you see these, declarations on Facebook, and I'm going to say Facebook, because that seems to be where the declarations come from.
That
They
might
don't.
speak to the demographic.
It speaks to the demographic. You don't see a lot of declarations on Instagram.
No.
Instagram's
Or
a little
TikTok.
cooler than that, and you certainly don't see them on TikTok. We're too busy watching llamas sing or whatever goes on over TikTok.
Yeah, talk about crazy creation.
But it's true that, and this is a thought. This is my thought. The first thought to me is the loudest anger typically comes from people who feel they have the most to lose.
Well, and to your point that you have your trunk full of songs, and that didn't matter because you didn't have all of the prerequisites required to make a song, to produce a song on your own, and to get it onto radio, and to go find your audience with it, because you were not these other things, right?
Well,
you might have been a songwriter, but
Yeah.
you weren't the other things, and
No,
that's what.
And I
Go
didn't
ahead.
have time because I just was,
Yeah.
I loved radio. I don't know if people who know me understand that I was obsessed with radio. So to me, that was the calling. The calling was to mix music on the radio and introduce music as a DJ on the radio. That was more important to me than to get out there and play a song on the guitar or, I think also I don't think I had maybe it's not so much self-confidence as I didn't think the world needed my songs at that moment, at that time, more than they needed me to find these amazing talents and to present them. That was just my calling. But you're right, Donna. I didn't have, my calling wasn't to sit and play the guitar better than anyone else I grew up in a house of music. My mom was a very talented musician. And my dad was a jazz lover who played music around us all the time. I heard all the most amazing jazz growing up, even though as a kid I loved pop, but I was very well rounded in a school of music in my home. But my calling was to play it. But now here I am, like a lot of people who have discovered AI, and it's in a way, just for fun, even just for a fun weekend, I could put some of those lyrics and chord progressions and see what we come up with, and maybe I'll release them, maybe I won't. I am probably in a rare position of having friends who are amazing musicians that seem to be interested in helping if I ask, which is I'm very lucky to have. But for artists I think artists need to think a little bit outside the box here. I think anger is your initial reaction because people who are on the top of their craft right now, people who are secure in this industry, people who have already built a lane, they don't complain about AI. I know one artist that we work with who I adore, and I'll drop his name, Steve Oliver. He has no concerns about AI, nor does he use it because Steve is AI.
Yeah. Right. But what I'm saying is you have been around music your whole life. You got to see thousands and thousands of cover arts and listen to hundreds of thousands of songs, right? So that would be like me going to every gallery in the world that I could get into from a child on, right? So if I go to create something visual, you would have to say that it would be influenced by all that artwork I saw.
That's right.
Right. And I've seen a lot more artwork than a lot of people because I have gone to a lot of galleries, but I'm not near what true art, buyers and people like that do. I'm not in that world. But, like I walked into my college at Art Institute of Fort Lauderdale a couple of years later and saw my artwork up on the wall. And it wasn't my artwork. It was someone else influenced by my artwork who pretty much ripped me off. But when I went to contest it, they said, well, we can't really prove that it was taken from you. So it could have just been influenced by something you did. So we're going to leave it up. And I was just appalled by that, right? So these lines have always been blurred and discussed. And what I'm saying, and I'm putting this out there, that you have every right to use tools that have become available to you to make songs that before the tools were available. It would have been too cost prohibitive. Like you said, you were focused on radio. Yeah, you could have worked with other artists, but that's not where you wanted to spend your off time, right? So if you can do this quicker now, then why not why not put your songs out there and see what happens? Because you say you didn't think the audience needed your music at that time, but you don't know that.
No,
You don't
that's
you
true.
don't know that. So why not do the best thing you can do? Like, I've seen awful AI cover art now, and I've seen really good AI cover art. I've seen what I think is absolutely hideous AI videos from musicians, and I've seen really good AI videos from musicians that you can't barely tell is AI.
I think that goes into that folder that I said. It's going to be as good as the prompts, as the person
Yeah.
creating it. Let's be careful, people, on juicing up our covers too much.
Yeah,
You know,
for
there's
sure.
going to, I mean, I've been listening now to AI for the better part of this year. I've been on a pretty big deep dive on artificial intelligence, and it didn't take me long. I didn't know when I would realize it because I talked to other musicians. They'll say, "Oh yeah, that's AI, that's AI," and I don't know how they know. I was just like, "How do you know? How do you know?" Well, now I know. Now I sit and listen to music. I'm like, that is so AI. So let's be really, really careful, about over juicing the colors on your artwork for your
Or the face.
or the
like,
face, or
getting rid of all
and
the age
no
lines.
no matter how hard we try, we are aging out here. We all are, and it's okay. It's okay. We're gonna be okay. But that's where we have to be careful. But we're going to learn. There's going to be a year or two from now when we're going to remember back and go, remember when everybody had super juicy colors on their artwork, and they made themselves look like they were 20 when they were 50, and and we're
Yeah.
going to remember that.
Yeah, and
But
I'm gonna say something too that might be a little controversial, but I think back to what you were saying, that when people drop in, that does tend to piss people off who have been literally practicing every single day. They
Yeah.
have been learning their chops. They have been learning recording. They have been learning mixing, whatever, and they are getting better and better the hard way. But so did we all. So did we all have to do everything the harder way and learn by hand. I used to draw all my artwork with ink pens, right? So now I can do it a lot faster with a prompt. Does that make me less of an artist? No, it allows me to maybe become a multi-dimensional artist. So it all comes back to the core of the human and the message you're trying to get out there. And I think to be angry or to put up fear-mongering videos about, trying to take a purist stance. We don't want to get back on the smooth jazz police bandwagon, because that's what the jazz people, like when Wynton Marsalis gets on a stage after a major smooth jazz person has played a jazz festival, the first thing I've seen him say multiple times is, that was not jazz. And it doesn't mean the audience didn't love that show, and it doesn't mean that musician wasn't excellent. But when you get into purity,
yeah,
and you become the decider and the judge of what's worthwhile, that's a dangerous place, because then you're going to cut out a lot of talent that if they can take it straight to the audience, maybe we discover people we would never know.
well, and I want to say something here, because it's my experience thus far that real artists and secure humans aren't angry at this. And also, so as long as I've known you as an accomplished visual artist, and you've been designing, for more than half your life, and people seek you out for covers, and you've done some incredible work. I've never one time seen you mad or upset or oh wow, that is so good, I should just give up right now. I've only seen you impressed with other artists. I've seen you seek out, like, you've bought other people's artworks while you've traveled. Street artists, famous artists. We have a local artist here in town that you've been waiting to acquire a piece from for years now, and you finally have your very own Richard McDonald Atelier sculpture. But I've never once seen you say, well, screw them. They're better than me. And I think really that's the biggest concern here, because it's, in my opinion, that this is not about purity. It's not about the art. It's not about ethics. I think it's about the status and the fear. I think it may be a feeling of, if someone gets ahead of me, faster than I got where I am, what does that say about the value of my struggle? And it is a painful question. It is, because you may feel that you've been waiting at the door. You've been waiting in line. Because remember, this industry that we're in, there's a scarcity mindset to it. That's unfortunate. It's baked into our industry. For decades, musicians have been told that there's only so many slots. There's only so many radio ads per week. There's only so many festival bookings. There's only so many placements, right? Everything is limited. But if you think it's bad now, I just watched the Michael movie, which took me back in time because, I was in high school when he released Off the Wall, and I was also on the radio in high school, not on high school radio. I was on professional pop radio in the community I grew up in, and I played those songs. And what came to mind during that movie, the most for me, the movie's excellent. I really enjoyed it. What really came to mind for me, though, was how different the industry was not that many years ago. Back then, there were very few ways to break music. He was on a major label, not to say, Michael could write his own ticket, but even with that talent, he had to fight. He had to fight to write the music in between the Jacksons' music. He had to fight to get his own deal. He had to fight to get his own lawyer. And then he had to fight to get on MTV because they were not playing black artists at that time. The rest is history, because most of us, grew up seeing Michael Jackson's videos and mini movies on MTV. But he had to push for that. He had to push for that because it hadn't been done yet. But so what my takeaway, because I'm an industry person, was how few opportunities there were for artists to break into the industry. Few opportunities and few artists.
Yeah.
Very few artists could be famous and huge like Michael Jackson 30, 40 years ago.
Yeah. And, now artists, at least in our genre that we've worked with over the last 25 years, tend to be a little older. They tend to have means, or they are able to find means. When you're starting out as an artist, especially in Michael's time, artists don't have money. They scrape by gig after gig, and to have the money to produce and mix and record, oh my God! I mean, the hours that went into those albums, right?
And the studio rentals alone, the time, the musicians, the producers. I mean,
getting
it was
the band there and getting the instruments there. I mean, it was cost prohibitive. You had to go through the middleman economy to make it work. It was like going to a bank to get a loan for your house. You had to get a loan for your career. Yeah. And some artists paid it back their entire lives and didn't see much from it. The label always gets their money back. But now we're in a culture where if you learn how to set a budget and how to use a certain amount of resources, let's just say it's resources, you can make an album. You can get radio airplay. You can get radio airplay around the world, not just on the Billboard 14 or whatever, but you can go further than that. You can build an audience with the distribution platforms that came along in the last decade or so. You can now just go and get a distributor and get your music out there and test
in 5
your
minutes.
Music. Yeah, and test your music against the audience based on how you connect to that audience and how much you learn to market and brand yourself, right? That's your big hurdle now. It's not cost prohibitive like it was in Michael's time. AI is only going to make that more affordable. Well, it's only going to make you sound better.
The irony, really, of the situation here on our very first coverage of artificial intelligence in the music industry is that the artists and musicians who are the angriest are probably the ones that would benefit the most from it, because AI can speed up your workflow. Yeah. AI can help you write. AI can help you produce. You could release more music consistently, especially if you don't have a label that's a partner with you in this. Mm-hmm. Yeah. It can help you compete. It can help you with social media. It can help you break through. It really, truly can. So maybe emotionally, it's hard to accept the fact that the thing you find yourself resenting might be the thing that breaks you free. Because this is just at this time, my opinion, it may not be about AI. It may be about identity. It may be about, insecurity. It may be about the pain that your journey has created in the long wait.
Yeah. Well, you're going to have more pain learning AI because every new tool that comes along requires a learning curve, right? And the future belongs to those who are willing to
Step foot into it.
Well, feel the change, right?
Yeah.
And I'm talking about, you can talk about these grand concepts, but when you're in it, when you're sitting there learning to prompt and you're learning and you're getting things back and maybe it's frustrating for you, that's a part of every learning curve. That's learning an instrument, that's learning how to songwrite, that's learning how to record, that's learning Pro Tools. It doesn't matter. There's always a learning curve. That's how we got where we are now, right? We're not going to stop learning. So if you want to sit and be bitter about it, that's your choice. You can go through you can feel your feels, right? What we're suggesting is now you have these tools that make it far more cost effective. And maybe you could try different genres too. Maybe you could bring in different influences because you're not paying what you would pay in a studio to do that. So maybe a good strategy is to focus on one song at a time and maybe do a video or do some branding around that using AI so that you keep your costs down and keep your maybe producer costs down and maybe try some things out one song at a time. Put those things out there and see what the feedback is from all the different places that hear and play your music, right?
Yeah.
Then and if you can guide your music in a way that the audience is responding to it.
And if you don't think that people will embrace, see, I believe we are in a format in this genre of contemporary jazz of exceptional musicians. I believe that. I know that. So just because you dabble in AI, it doesn't mean we don't want you to play your guitar. You could actually create a song that maybe is insanely melodic, because remember, the genre is based on groove and melody. And I say in this order, melody and groove. So what if AI helped you, create a song, compose a song, then it gives you the stems, and then you get your drummer friends and your bass friends, and you put down whatever instrument you play. I mean, you don't know. Just be curious and maybe check it out. Maybe this is something that works for you. Now, if you believe that AI is not being embraced by our industry, and I'm not naming names here because that's not what we're doing on this particular show, but we know for a fact that there is an AI song that had its debut on a major satellite radio channel. And I don't know that they know that it's AI, but we know. And so, and it's also being played on, I don't know, a couple dozen other stations at the moment. And so
for those saying
it's
that
really good, it's really good.
And for those saying they will not work it, they will not touch it,
they already touched it. Yeah,
they already have.
So
this is not an argument anymore.
No, let's just stay open-minded. Let's keep the dialogue going, because that's important. We need to keep the dialogue going. And let's maybe stay open-minded. Ask yourself why, if you feel a lot of feelings around it, a lot of emotions around it, maybe ask yourself why. And, and it's not for everybody, because again, not everybody needs it.
No, if you want to go cobble the old way, go cobble. Yeah, if you love it, do it. But here's the thing. I want to address one thing, because this came up last week from a client of ours who delayed putting out a track for an artist because of what he heard was going on with Sony and the major labels. So I just want to address this in case this gets thrown out as fear-mongering. There's really something interesting going on right now with AI in the music industry. And this happened, I believe, before with Sound Exchange creating the new performance royalty once internet radio started. Once there were digital broadcasters, it freaked the RIAA out, and the record labels really wanted a piece of the digital, performance of the songs, right? So they created the Sound Exchange performance royalty. not the publishing royalties. This is going to be a new thing coming up, so keep your eyeball on this. Warner Brothers and Universal have already made a deal with Suno and what's the other one, Sandy? Udio.
Yeah.
They've already made a deal to use like a checkout system. Basically, it's like a ticketing system. So if instead of training their AI models on copyrighted material that's owned by the record labels, which they did do by scraping YouTube. So that's been done. So, AI learning from all the artists that have been like major artists, that's already been done. It's already in the knowledge of AI. You're not going to pull that out, right?
Yeah, the models have already scanned.
They've already been scanned. And also there was another court case on written works, and the judge ruled in favor of AI that it was too helpful to AI. It was too much of a training tool. When they purchased the books, they could train the AI on the written style. So what Sony's trying to do now, they're not going to settle with these AI music AIs or generative AI, and which there will be more, I'm sure, in the future. So they're trying to set a model basically that they will license their works at Sony to all of the AI learning models. And that way they will always have a new revenue stream, right? The only problem with this is it leaves out independents. So look for that coming down the line, just like it did with Sound Exchange, that independents will probably have to get together. Remember, Bill Goldsmith was a part of this, Sandy, with the internet radio providers. But the independent labels are going to have to, or independent artists are going to have to fight for this as well, because right now we're in the Wild West. And these, just, look out for these court cases. I'll post it on the Stream Girls, the Sony case that's still going on in the Southern District of New York.
On our social media.
We'll see how this is going to shake down.
Okay, yeah, I mean, for sure, it's everything is just so new. It's like back in the day of starting up with the streaming, where we watched the fireworks go off and the stations that had to collapse back when they first started out because of Sound Exchange, which was initially called... You'll remember the name of Sound Exchange before it was Sound Exchange. I
don't know. Well, the first act was the Digital Millennium Copyright Act, but Sound Exchange was based on that.
Yeah, but I think it had initials. I thought,
remember.
As the historian, you're supposed to know all that.
I can't remember, but they were really going around cracking heads on all the internet radio stations.
Yeah, and stations had to fold and close down because they couldn't afford, terrestrial radio wasn't paying these fees. But these little internet stations that were starting up in people's garages and basements, that as a side project, man, they were coming hard after us. And, I remember the first time they reached out to smoothjazz.com and there were a lot of zeros on.
Yeah.
And we're like, we don't even make 10% of that.
No.
So.
And they wanted our back server catalogs
and
logs. And we're like, what?
Yeah, and nobody was paying that. Like, it was just a gesture to shut down the independents. So like you, we're independent. We've been navigating the waters for a very long time, and that's why we started up this podcast to see if we could be of further support. And I think the topic of AI is going to be something that we will continue to traverse over the course of this podcast. It's really important.
Some guest on too, huh?
What's that?
Probably have some guests on to talk about their
season 2. We're going to have, we're going to be filled. It's going to be star-studded. But it's really important to us that in the meantime, if you don't mind, we hear it's very helpful if you will go and subscribe to our YouTube channel. And we really need you to do all that following and whatnot. We are available on Facebook at Stream Girls, on Instagram, The Stream Girls, and we're all over the wherever you pod. If you could follow us on Spotify and all those places, it would mean a great deal. Thank you.
Yes.
Until next time, we are the Stream Girls. Thanks for listening.
Cheers, everyone.
Check the Stream Girls. They got a lot to say. The Stream Girls, from Los Angeles to the Monterey